Mega Man X4. Hello, friends and fellow gamers. My name is TempestMask1000, and welcome to the end of this little Mega Man block. And I am very happy to present to you all this wonderful, wonderful game within the X franchise. And I'm just so happy to be back here for Retro Gaming Live TV's Feed the Kids event. It's been a while since I got to do anything for this event. I've been a little bit busy here and there, and admittedly forgot to do a submission or two. So that one's on me. But hey, glad to be back here, and yeah, this is going to be my first ever presentation of this very speed run for you all. So thank you for trusting me to hopefully put on a good show for you all tonight. That said, I'm going to be doing the X 100% category thanks to everybody's contributions with the bid war that we had going to determine said category. And in case you might have missed out on that, don't worry, because I do want to mention really quickly that tomorrow at noon, I will be running Curse Crackers for Whom the Bell Toils, and there will be a similar bid war where you can decide a very similar thing. But with that in mind, joining me today is a fellow X4 runner and Gungrave runner. It's Zero Blade Edge. How you doing, good sir? I'm feeling pretty good. Actually, hang on, let me just make sure that people actually heard that. They should be I was told you're doing good. Is that correct?
Yep, they heard that. You're good.
Okay, good. Yep.
I listened in real quick.
Yeah, sounds good. Sometimes I can't be too sure. Sometimes I bring a bit of scuff with me. All right, folks, let us get this thing going, shall we? So, really quick, gotta bind the dash button to my preferred button because, well, as it would happen, I'm a bit more of a Mega Man Zero familiarized player, so usually using a dash shoulder button is what I tend to go with best. But the time will begin once we select our character. So we're just going to go into game start. This was the first PlayStation game, and so they did a split pathway here, but from here on out, you could switch between characters. Or, sorry, choose which to play. Alright. Oh, I love this character select theme. Alright, time will begin in 3, 2, 1, go. Let's begin. And with that, let's talk a little bit about the history of this game. So, there are a few things different about X4 as compared to the previous Super Nintendo titles that a lot of you folks may or may not be familiar with. We're going to start simple with dashing. Similar to the Mega Man Zero games, which would come later on, dashing is now allowed to have momentum be carried into jumps from the get-go. So as long as I'm holding the dash button, my dash momentum will carry through into the jump itself. The reason this is preferred over on-the-ground dashing is because there's a little bit of a startup animation. You'll still see me use it a few times at the very least whenever preferable, but other than that, if I do it too many times, then obviously I'm going to be losing some time at the very minimum. But other than that, there's really no way to hold a button and scroll through text that way, unlike holding start with the previous games. So I am going to be doing quite a bit of mashing, but luckily the face buttons and the shoulder buttons will be able to do the job for me. So that right there was Magma Dragoon. We'll be seeing him pretty soon. But for now, yeah, this is kind of carnage. This is probably the most violence we've seen in a while with the Mega Man X game on screen. So this Sky Lagoon intro level was always personally one of my favorites. I did not dash jump in that position. Oh well. Yeah, that can happen if your controller decides to say no. It is what it is. But hey, at least we were right next to a checkpoint, so that couldn't have possibly been any better.
Yeah, so, another interesting thing about like the dashing, we call it bunny hopping. So he's just holding the button and jumping, which if you want to play X in this game and go fast, it's better to use a shoulder button because it's kind of hard to hold a charge jump and hold the dash button at the same time.
So this is our intro boss, Irigian, and this is my personal favorite of the X series, just by design and music alone. He always reminded me of the Mech Dragon from Mega Man 2, albeit a lot more fearsome, and quite competent when you think about it. He's got a little bit of controllable RNG that we usually do, like what you just saw me there was mostly stay in place, and this mostly prevents him from moving to the other side. You did still see him do it a little bit, but aside from that, the reason you saw me rail him with half-charge shots mostly is that charge time does take a little bit of a while to do, but we still do quite a bit of damage with half-charge shots, so the fact that I can just do them a heckin' lot is very good, and all that jazz. So, yeah. Anyway, this is Double. He's a rookie Maverick Hunter. He's going to be acting as our support guide, even though we won't really be seeing him during the stages, unlike Alia in the later games, which is kind of a shame because it kind of leaves him undercooked as a character, but there might be a bit of a surprise for him later on, don't you worry. Alright, so yeah, it turns out that Dragoon, who we just saw at the Sky Lagoon, was the reason why the whole thing came crashing down, and yeah, we kind of have to show him what for. And yes, the Irregular Hunters. This was a translation that was not quite patched out in the English version of the game, and a lot of people were wondering, well, who are the Irregular Hunters? Yeah, it's just the Maverick Hunters, except they're called Irregular Hunters in the Japanese script. So, all this time, it wasn't really some sort of special division of the Maverick Hunters, it was just the same group all this heckin' time, and Capcom simply forgot to change it up a little bit.
Also, this is one of those rare instances in any game, not just a Mega Man game, where the Japanese version is slower, because in the Japanese versions of the game, version of X4, for some reason they gave bosses quotes before the fight, and in the English version they just took them out.
Yeah,
so we all
much
prefer to run on the English version.
Yep. We still see it with some characters, particularly the ones that got English dubbed, which, fun fact, this game shares the exact same cast as Mega Man 8. The games came out a little bit close to one another, but in terms of the casting itself, X-Voice Ruth Shiraishi revealed that it turns out all this time, X4 and Mega Man 8, they were done within the same process of the recording and stuff. Like, whoever got brought onto the project, they not only did their X4 lines, but also their 8 lines, or something of that caliber, at least according to what I remember her mentioning in an official interview.
So this is the Magma Dragoon fight. He is totally not Ryu.
Or Akuma, for that matter.
Yeah, but you'll see Temperature use half charges. Like we said earlier, the charge time is not that great. There might be an opportunity or two in the fight where you can fully charge, but we always just use half charges.
This is a little dangerous. He's going to go into the thing, so obviously I'm going to just use the mech suit because, for one, the placement was right on the platform, so I knew it was going to fall into it anyway. Obviously, using the ride armor here is going to be a bit slower, but it's all for safety, because that's the thing about the 100% fight. It's a lot more dangerous if you're not able to react accordingly to Dragoon's movements. He can do a lot of damage to you, and X's starting health is obviously going to be a bit low. Not to mention that we did not get the life up here, despite this being 100%. The reason? This is the one time we're going to be doing a backtrack within the game, and part of that reason is that the armor piece for the body armor, it requires the use of having the Buster piece as well as Slash Beast's Twin Slasher. So if I can't charge Twin Slasher, there's really no point in doing anything else. Magma Dragoon for 100% is the preferred starter stage.
Yeah, also another cool thing about Mega Man X4 versus the SNES games, we get 2 attack buttons. So for X, that's great because we can just mash out Buster shots in, like in the first part of Sky Lagoon you saw him just mash against the wall. Smashing a square and triangle in my brain, X and Y, and hit on his, because he is playing the X Legacy Collection version, which is just an easily accessible version for anybody nowadays in 2023, simply because it's on PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox, Switch, and Steam.
And just for clarification, this is the Switch version, so yeah, I am playing on a Pro controller for y'all today, and it feels pretty good. Like, it almost feels like a natural sort of continuation of where the Super Nintendo games left off when you think about it, and it's kind of crazy, because back in the day when Capcom was trying to put out the game, or at least one of the games, I know Sony, they were kind of against the idea of 2D games, but I remember it was one particular title where Capcom themselves argued, alright, look, we're going to do this our way, otherwise you're not going to get Resident Evil. And obviously Sony folded, all for the better.
Yeah, I give Steve props simply because I could never play this game on a Switch controller. We were just having this conversation before we went live.
Yeah. In all fairness, I also run this on the Xbox version, but I currently have the Switch on me because, yeah, I actually run on rental copies. And, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I highly encourage anybody that wants to learn a speed game to potentially seek out any and all resources on how to acquire the game if it's a little too pricey for you. My usual go-to is the local library system, and yes, you can rent games from libraries. I know a lot of people exclaim in shock at this initial revelation, but I've done it plenty of times for quite a few years now. So we're actually going to need to go there, and this is why we got to Magma Dragoon first, because that life up is required in order... sorry, not... Well, yes, it's required for the category, but yeah, we need Rising Fire in order to burn that away, so... Yeah, it's only fair to avoid having to make a revisit and go back into Area 2. So, now for the boss fight, and Spooderman himself. This is going to be a bit interesting. So, the strategy itself, normally I go into the stage if I was, like, first if I was running on any percent, but... yeah, there's no real difference here except for having the leg parts now, which, by the way... that's one of the big differences between any percent and 100%, requiring the leg parts. See, you don't really need them. In fact, all they really do for you is you get an air dash if you're not doing dash momentum while already in midair, and you can also hover, which is good for maneuvering per se, but when it comes to going fast, it is kind of easy to get your inputs sort of mixed up, and yeah, you could potentially just suddenly go into hovering or air dash, and it's kind of not what you wanted, is what I'm trying to say here. English is hard for me tonight, pardon. So,
yeah, the hover mechanic is new, in I think it's only in this one in X5. I'm not 100% sure if it's in X5.
That sounds about
right. But the hover is one of the reasons I haven't ran X 100% in years.
Yeah. I know you're more of a Zero player, or at least in terms of like the comfortable feeling of Zero's campaign, which I do plan on running eventually. Like, I have nothing but respect for both X and Zero runners alike. It's just that X has always been my homeboy, and I always felt like whenever I wanted to jump into mainline Mega Man X running, X was going to be the character I picked first. And this game just spoke to me. It just sang. It just... there's a lot about it that I really, really enjoy, and it just also felt easier to jump into rather than any percent in X1, I guess. Storm Owl!
Now we're going to the bottomless pit stage.
Yes, that's true. And I always feel like the English announcer is saying Owl instead of Owl, so that is my split name right there. That's the reason I do that.
Why does everyone play X2? Because it's great.
Yeah, actually.
It's another one of my favorites.
Yeah, X1 is good. X2 is good. I'm gonna be frank. I do not hate any of the X games in terms of the mainline stuff. They all tried their best, and there's something to enjoy about every one of them. Even, yes, X6 and 7. Blasphemous, I know, but would it be such blasphemy if I told you I also plan on speedrunning X7?
No, because I've done it. But a little thing to mention real quick. The jumping or the dashing and shooting that he's doing in that mech is actually a glitch in the game. It was not intended. Shout outs to whoever figured that out, because if you charge, you just stand there.
And that is why
move. But if you charge with a dash, you can actually move and keep progressing forward in the stage.
Alright, there we go. That's the trick I wanted to do. There is a different trick for 100% X, but I'm a little more familiar with the any percent variant, so my muscle memory is just going to default to that anyway.
I just ride the platform.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Like, I'll be quite frank, that trick does not treat beginners easily. It takes a little while to get used to in general. This is a mini-boss. Those drones that fire the lasers, they're annoying, but, you know, they take 2 taps in order to go down, so I think it's like a 1 tap if you're using a charge buster anyway. And speaking of, as we go into the owl fight, I picked up the Stockbuster. There's 2 types of arm modules within the 4th armor here, and the first is the Plasma Shot, which, if you are running the Ultimate Armor category, you are going to be stuck with no matter what. But, obviously, Stock Shot has a lot more benefits in a speed run. I hate that move, by the way. But, yeah, Stock Shot allows you to charge up to 4 charges, and considering how it's got practically superior damage that way, as compared to the Plasma Shot's remainder little plasma fire that happens instead, yeah, there's no contest here. We prefer the Stock Shot in terms of the speedrunning for X, and that's about that.
Also, little tangent about UA. UA does Cyber Peacock first because it's the easiest armor capsule to get, but it also allows us to kill Storm Owl really fast, where we can't do that here because we don't have aiming laser or Nova Strike.
I'm gonna potentially die here, and that's bad for 0 lives. Ah! Oh well. The good news about this game...
can be unforgiving.
Yeah, it can be, but the good news is that, like with X8, X8's a good game, don't get me wrong. I was supposed to say Mega Man 8. But as I was gonna say... Yeah, no, like with Mega Man 8, luckily with the 2 area stage division going on, yeah, if you game over, it'll send you back to the second area if that's where you were, and that's why game overing is not the worst here, at least in my opinion anyway, but for the owl fight, yeah, it's a bit tricky. I probably should have taken a safety game over as it was, so that would have prevented me from having to take the journey back. We're gonna be a little bit up there, but hey, admittedly, this is why I submit safer estimates, safer than they should ever have to be. Alright, here we go. So, there's actually a little bit of a trick that we can do with Owl here. I don't necessarily expect myself to get it. It's called Shield Break, and how it works is Owl's invincibility frames are actually dictated by that wind shield that you see him go for whenever I hit him in general. But there's a period of that frame time that it actually does not activate. So if I manage to hit him in the midst of that period, I can do more damage to him and shove a few charge shots, or even just normal buster shots into him, and that's about that. It's not easy to do, though, and again, not necessarily beginner-friendly, so you're mainly going to see me try to take it safe here, but other than that, yeah, when he grabs you like that, it's the worst attack on account of just the damage it deals you. You can't mash out of it despite the looks of it. And, yeah. Oh, dang it, I almost had him. I shouldn't have walked off there. Admittedly, this is probably going to be the most trouble that I'm having with him, but, at least throughout the run. There are still a few gatekeepers, though, and... Hey, you know what? So be it. We're still here to have fun, and we're here to feed the kids. So, remember, folks, if y'all feel like you got something to donate, don't be afraid to do so. You're helping a lot of lives through the process of it all. And I'm always, I'm never one to shy away from supporting children by charity means of any kind. Like, again, it just feels great to be back here on RGLtv for this wonderful event, and everybody's been doing a fantastic job so far. So let's keep it up, folks, because we still got another day of event to go after today. There we go. Nice. And he didn't even do the worst attack that he could have possibly pulled out, so that made that final shot a whole lot easier.
Oh, you're talking about when he goes to the middle and just sits there?
I hate that move with a passion. Alright. There are a few ways we can split the splits, by the way. Some prefer to do it on teleport, some prefer to do it on explosions. That's the one I do. There's a few ways that we do it. There's really no correct way of such. Alright, now into Frost Walrus's level. And,
best song in the game.
Oh, yeah, this is actually cool, because this level has, well, okay, ice pun unintended. This little stage has 2 different themes. The first being, a little more atmospheric in a way, I want to say, and then the second one being a little more stage-like, which you'll see if you listen closely. So I'll actually give you a bit of listening time right now, right after I do this. So that right there, yeah, that also required Rising Fire. Oh, hey, I despawned that enemy. I've never seen that before.
I never have either in the 11 years that I've ran this game.
There you go. It can happen in a few other instances. I've seen it with the spaceport, with some wheel enemies that you'll be seeing in a later level. But yeah, I wish I could say that was the only thing we had to collect in this level. Unfortunately, we have to go a little bit up. This is the EX tank. This was introduced in Mega Man X4 and continued on over to the other PlayStation games. Its purpose? From now on, whenever I spawn into a level with a new set of lives, it's going to be moved from 2 to 4. So, it's kind of pointless, but it's necessary for 100% completion, and I don't blame Capcom for at least appreciating the sprite. I can only imagine that's the singular reason they kept bringing this into the other games anyway.
Also, another cool feature I just remembered about X Legacy Collection: if you are walled and you're having a hard time casually playing the game, there is, for every game, there's a Rookie Hunter mode, so you can play that and have an easier time and just enjoy the story.
Absolutely. And the best part about that is in X Legacy Collection 2 X6, it makes the gate fight a heck of a lot easier by actually putting in a floor at the bottom, so no more bottomless pit for you, gate. And that's actually a godsend, believe me. But, oh, no. Okay, thank you. Yeah, if you position yourself just right on the slope, you cause the ice block with an explosive inside it to break, and it's pretty neat. I like that about... I just like that, really. I like doing that quite a bit. So now for the other item that X4 introduced, the weapon sub-tank. So there are still sub-tanks that can stock health for you, and they're actually very forgiving in X4, because even if you're at full health, for each health pickup I collect, it'll still get a bit of that energy into the sub-tank. But in terms of the weapon energy sub-tank, yeah, that's basically for weapon energy, and it's actually a lot more useful than you might think. Aw, dang it. Well, hey, at least we had one bird and nothing more.
So another cool thing that was introduced... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go first, because we got a bit of time.
So another cool thing that was introduced in the PlayStation games is, unlike in X1, 2, and 3, where if your health is full, then you can fill your sub-tanks. So say you have like 2 pixels of damage on the SNES version, you can just get a thing and it'll fill it up, but it won't touch your sub-tanks. In the PlayStation versions of X, or the PlayStation X games, whenever you heal over your health, so say Steve has 3/4 of his health, he heals all the way. By the way, that was Walrus. It's pretty easy. Just rising fire him and watch out. It'll, like, and if he gets 3 drops that fill his health all the way up, it'll spill over into his sub tank, so no health is wasted.
All right. So now that we've defeated 4 Mavericks, we actually have an interim fight. And this is exclusive to X. In Zero's campaign, this is completely replaced with an anime cutscene, which was done by the now defunct Studio Zebek, or Zebek. I never really knew how to produce it, but big shout out to them because they were always known for making anything, well, anime related when it came to Mega Man from this game, Mega Man 8, and beyond. They were responsible for the Battle Network TV anime, which was my very childhood and introductory to Mega Man in general, and I owe so much to them for that. So thank you so much for all your work. I'm very sorry that the studio is now defunct ever since 2019, but they've done quite a bit, and I can only imagine they were so happy with the contributions they did make.
Charles not being nice.
Not at all, yeah. This fight's a little bit different. Again, one of the things I'm a little more used to on any percent, for a particular reason, that being, by this point, we would already have the Nova Strike. But we'll give this another shot. This is not too terrible. So yeah, if you all enjoyed the idea of donating to a bid war for chaos, you got what you deserve. You got your mileage out of it, because you're certainly putting me on the spot. That's what I meant to say. Nah, but truly, 100% is a category that I did want to run regardless. It's just, there's certainly a few things that I prefer within any percent. It's not too bad, though, and this is actually one of the instances where, in a Mega Man X game, any percent and 100% is... it's practically the same. Like, there's not a huge time discrepancy between the two. It's maybe a minute, 2 minutes, or something like that, but you can beat the game in relatively similar times, regardless of which path you take, and that's amazing, honestly. Ooh, excuse me. So here's F-Zero Stingray. I'm sorry, not sorry, but play F-Zero 99. It's a really good game. And this is a ride chaser level. So unlike X2, where the ride chaser is a mechanic within the stage itself, this was the first instance of an auto-scroller which mandated the use of the ride chaser. And what you're seeing me do is the mid-air dash, because that's faster than simply doing it on the ground. That was close. I'm surprised I survived that. That could be a little late. Nope, it was not. Yeah, practically whatever air dashes you do, you want to keep down to either a rhythm or just in terms of general timing. You gotta keep all that in mind if you do not want to fall into a pit. If you fall into a pit, then I'm sorry, there's really no checkpoints, and you gotta do all that portion of level again. So, in terms of beginner time gatekeeping, this would be that contender. And yes, I knew that was pretty close. I still felt like I was going to be in control at the end of that jump.
Also, another cool thing, you can speed up this auto-scroller by air dashing and holding down.
Nope. That's true, though. And yeah, that's exactly what I mean. See, right there, I had to scratch myself, but, yeah. One missed input, and that's pretty killer. But hey, one death isn't really going to bother me much. If anything, that's what I personally prefer to keep it to, because at the very least it gets to show off what can happen if you're not too considerate of the dangers within the ride chaser portion.
And another beginner gatekeeper is this sub-tank coming up. It is something I've struggled with for years, and you got it first try. Good job.
I've boiled it down to a particular strategy. I do not do any air dashes within that final portion within the upslope ramp. Rather, when I jump to that mini platform before the bunch of boxes that guard the sub-tank, that's when I do the air dash, because as long as you keep close to that altitude, you're not going to miss it, like, at all. So, it's a pretty nifty little beginner-friendly trick, and I would certainly recommend y'all give it a shot. But now for Jet Stingray, this is one of the boss fights where I'm not going to be trying to use his weakness as much, except for maybe finishing him off, if applicable. And the reason for that is his weakness animation, where he's, like Colonel, he's weak to Frost Tower. The problem is, he's got an encased in ice animation, which results in him therefore, oh, well, that's the one move I did not want to see him do, but luckily for him, he dashes right into it. Yes! At least I got to show that one off. That's a funny way to kill him. So, yeah, as I was mentioning, as long as you get him with the final hit with Frost Tower, you're basically good to go. You're not going to see him get stuck in ice, and he's not going to be invincible. And now for Ground Hunter, which, yeah, remember how I mentioned Slash Beast? This is where we go into his stage now, because that is his weakness. It's fun because, yeah, it's a fun weakness, given that it takes after the Mega Man X1 effect, as I like to call it, in that if you're familiar with how Boomerang Cutter from Boomer Kawanger cuts off Launch Octopus's tentacles in Flame Mammoth's tusk, you're going to see something pretty similar here, so stay tuned for that boss fight. But for now, Zero, do you like trains?
I love trains.
I like trains.
So this stage is so weird. Like, I don't even worry about it when I run the game, but the bouncing of the train and when you end the first half is RNG. Because it could either take a couple seconds to go into the tunnel, or it can take forever, depending on where you end the mini-boss fight at.
Yeah, it's generally on a certain cycle, normally calculated by how long it takes you to beat the mini-boss and this first portion of level. I'm not going to worry about it too much, though. Ah, well, that was a little embarrassing. As you could probably tell, the stock shots were to try and hit the weak points without having to do too much legwork with the lightning web. Because if you do it just right, if you do a little hop and then go to the top, you can get that first spike out of the way, and then you can just wail on the other two with lightning web no problem. And yeah, lightning web is kind of like Gemini laser from Mega Man 3 in that if you have a shot present in the level itself, you can't really change weapons or fire another one. So one trick that runners generally do with lightning web is try to fire it to the point where it'll at least go off screen, so that way we know it will not set up as a jumpable platform, because yes, it does have that secondary purpose, which is how we got some of the upgrades, and it's personally one of my favorite weapons, but in terms of trying to kill bosses fast with it, it has its flaws, and like I said, it's basically Gemini laser in that regard. So we're getting off that train. We're going to get on to another one in just a bit, but the funny thing about the leftover health effect for the sub-tanks that Zero talked about is, oddly enough, the maximum health recovery pickups, they do not fully recharge your sub-tank. I wish they did, because that certainly would make things a lot simpler for collecting the health in that way. I was told that sometimes it can, but yeah, I don't know. I have not seen it on my end. I have yet to, anyhow. Anyway, here's Beast. So yeah, I just fired one Ground Hunter, and on the first hit that it gets him, he loses his toe claws, and now he can't do his Crescent Wave attack in two different directions. He can still perform it, but he can only do it in one way. But aside from that, the tripping animation constantly just throws him into this ever so repeating cycle where he will do the lunge attack thereafter. So it's generally a scripted fight as far as things go.
Hey, Steve. Did you know Slash Beast is broken in the PS2 version of X Collection?
Ooh, do tell.
So, for some reason, and it's one of the reasons I run that version the most, he could roar and get stuck in a roar.
Oh, yeah. I think I heard about that one, yeah.
He'll roar over and over and over again, and if you're playing a Zero, you can just mash in his face, and he will just die. Because he can't he won't do anything else. He chooses to roar. I think I've had about a good 10 fights in my whole time running this game where he has just sat there and roared in my face.
There you go. I should definitely try that now, because I am super intrigued. And yes, Zero specifically mentions the X Collection. This is not the Legacy Collection, but rather the X Collection that was exclusive to North America for PS2 and GameCube. And it is also technically the sequel to the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, which, yeah, that also came out for Xbox, but not the original X Collection. Why that is, I could not tell you, but, yeah, there is a little bit of...
the Xbox controller was awful. Could you imagine playing these on an actual Xbox controller?
Well, I guess if we're talking about the Duke, fair game. But,
yeah.
Nowadays, it's a lot better. That said, I can certainly say it's not the first time Capcom has chosen not to release a Mega Man collection on the Xbox. Battle Network Legacy Collection. Luckily, I do have the Switch version of that, so it's all good. And I suppose PC version is where it's at, too, because... Wait. Oh, shoot. Ah, you know what? We gotta make a detour, because I totally blanked out that at that point we were supposed to do our revisit. So we're gonna lose a little bit of time. My apologies for that, folks, but...
I blanked out. It's okay. I failed my job, but it's okay. Comedy.
Oh.
Content.
Yeah, you had one job, Zero. How could you do this to me?
I'm just here for the lulz and to explain some things.
You know what? This is true. I can't blame you for that. No, this is a great opportunity, though, folks. And again, I just hope you're enjoying this because, again, I've been meaning to show X4 off to any kind of event, and I'm just grateful for that chance now. Oh yeah, remember how I mentioned that at this point we get 4 lives now? Yeah, you get to see that up front in that counter at this point, so hey. a little more safety this time around. I cannot complain there, I suppose.
Are you ready for your next Mega Man X4 fun fact?
Go for it.
Someone made a Kaizo of this game.
Yeah, you know what? That makes a lot of sense.
It's called Rockman X4 Boost.
Oh,
I tried to speedrun it.
That's true. I forgot about that.
I didn't do a very good job.
Yeah.
So they've edited the levels in a way that like these meteors fall at about 3 times speed.
What?
And they all fall at once. And right before Dragoon's door, there is a bottomless pit with those meteors going up and down at the same time. And it's basically a wall that you have to wait until you get this piece so you can Nova Strike through it to fight Dragoon.
That's sadistic. What the hell?
I'll send you a YouTube video of it later.
Please do. I am now curious. I've heard about that game, but I certainly wasn't sure how different it was going to be.
It's different.
I mean, yeah, if it's a Kaizo, it's going to be a lot different, but I was not expecting a Kaizo. I was expecting a little more something like, say... Oh gosh, what was the name of that Mega Man 2 hack again? Or was it 4? Burst Chaser, there you go. Yeah, Mega Man Burst Chaser.
3 was Burst Chaser, I think.
There you go. Right, back to Split Mushroom stage, yes.
Yeah, 4 was Burst Chaser Cross Air Slider or something.
Yeah, there you go.
I run ROM hacks too. I can't keep them together either.
That's one thing I want to do. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I have a folder for you, buddy.
Oh, this is gonna be big. I'll bet. ROM hacks are super cool, though. Big shout out to Fan Games and ROM hacks. The Mega Man Leaderboards website accommodates to both as well, and it's just super cool to see the stuff that can be put on there. I certainly would say it's almost like a little Mega Man encyclopedia in itself, because if it weren't for that, I would not have known about the best Mega Man side game of all, Rockman and Forte Mirai Kata no Chozensha for the Wonder Swan.
Oh gosh, not that game. So
I
you just
will
did a
never
skip,
let you forget it.
And it's a pretty interesting skip. So the way that this mini-boss activates is you have to scroll onto the screen, and then it scrolls over and locks. But if you Rising Fire charged into a Nova Strike, you land on the platform, and the pixel needed to switch the camera over. But because he's on top and not on bottom, it doesn't scroll the camera, and it locks right there, so you can just jump over the mini-boss because the invisible wall is not there.
It's pretty simple to get down, but also it can be a bit tricky if you get it wrong. So do be mindful that, but the good news is if you do fail, all you need to do is hit the spikes at the bottom of the boss arena, because they will instant kill you, and it'll respawn you right at the beginning of that room. So
it's actually faster to do that.
Yeah, no, absolutely, because that mini-boss itself, the only way you can damage it is if it tries to rise up and attack you, but even then, the amount of time it takes to get to that point after moving from side to side is long. So, yeah. Luckily, Zero has a quick kill effective method for taking care of it, because unlike X, he can't skip it, so... Yeah, it's a good thing that Magma Dragoon's equivalent for Zero's techniques. Oh, geez. Well, I guess I'm not doing that, but, yeah. I'll explain that in a second. It's not important, per se, but it would have been cool if I did get to display it, but hey, this is perfectly acceptable. I was attempting to scroll the camera or in a way that would have allowed me to go into the little shutter door within the pre-boss chamber, and until the elevator goes fully up, the camera does not catch up with X, which means I can enter Split Mushroom's boss chamber and just go in there before the warning text appears, which then allows me to put myself right next to him. It's really funny. And fun fact...
So this is Gemini Man.
Yeah, this is basically Gemini Man. Funny how we just mentioned his laser not too long ago. But I got a fun fact for you all. Anybody familiar with Power Rangers Turbo?
That's the second one.
Third technically the third one, yeah. You're thinking Mighty Morphin, Zeo, and then Turbo.
Is that the one where the movie made the joke about you don't need a license to drive a Zord?
I would imagine so. There's no way it wouldn't. Like, I can only imagine that, but...
Not only do I commentate, I get homework. Because now I have to find the movie and watch it to see if I'm right.
The reason I brought up Turbo is because in the Super Sentai equivalent, the original source material, Car Ranger, Split Mushroom's Japanese voice actress was known to play the side character Dapu. So in my split, I officially call him Car Ranger Dapu Mushroom for that reason. And she did not do a whole lot of voice roles outside of the stuff she was known for back then. I'm pretty certain she's still alive to this day, but unless there's some sort of creditation that we've never known for the longest time, she has not seemingly done voice acting in forever. Which is kind of crazy because I think her performance is spectacular, and especially as Mushroom here. So, yeah, shout out to her. If only I could remember her name, though. It's a little hard.
I hate this section of Zero because you have to do it like jump up to go over, and X and Soul Body just rips through it.
Exactamundo. And the reason why that's super, super important is because you have to get S ranks in order to get all of Cyber Peacock's little collectibles. And that's, again, mandatory for 100%. Which, hey, the good news behind Zero is that he only gets to do 2 S ranks, really. The last one is just for going fast, but in terms of X's case, he gets a life up, a sub-tank, and the body, or not body, head armor, which will then complete our 4th armor.
Okay, so the headpiece is the most busted item in any Mega Man game, and you can't tell me different. It gives you infinite weapon ammo, except for charge shot. So you'll consume weapon energy when you use a charge shot of, say, Ground Hunter or Tiger's weapon, whichever, or Beast's weapon, which I can't remember the name of it right now.
You were thinking Neon Tiger.
I was. But as of right now, we have infinite ammo
and it's
to play with, which is weird. And I brought this up in a general conversation with you. If you would have voted for, if you would have donated for any percent, you would not be getting the headpiece because it's technically slower. But it just blows my mind.
So there's a way to skip the cutscene. It would normally appear impossible to jump over the thing without activating the conversation with Dr. Light, but the X community has found a way, and it simply involves the use of the lightning web. So, funny how fate works sometimes. But aside from that, yes, I actually would have skipped that unless I was doing pretty poorly to the point where having the infinite weapon ammo could have saved me some time. So, in actuality, yes, I still would have collected it, because if I was performing just as poorly in any percent like right now, yeah, I would have no reason not to. And there you go. We have all 8 Mavericks down. And now for the potentially shortest late game in just about any Mega Man X title, actually. We're moving on to the first of our late stages, this being the spaceport, where we're going to have our rematch with Colonel. And this is where platforming really comes to life. This is likely one of the most optimized levels of X4, because this is also one of the shortest levels of X4 in terms of being an average length stage. It's at least the length of a singular area, yes, but I can't really call it a 2-area stage. It's got to be a full level stage just on principle of you go from point A to point B and this portion ends with the boss gate itself. So, yeah, if you want to practice X4, try to learn it for yourself, definitely give this level a go. You'll probably thank me later for it.
Also, another fun fact, sometimes corners in this game just do not work. You'll be going to like wall kick off a corner, and it'll be there in theory, but it won't be there physically, and you just fall back down.
Yeah. Oh boy.
So Colonel's gonna get a new attack here, and it's pretty much he's gonna Highlander you and stab his sword in the ground, and lightning is gonna go everywhere. But that's about the only difference in this fight. Oh, and he moves faster.
Yep, quite faster indeed. Yep, as expected.
The old meme of he turns red and he goes faster.
Yeah, true actually. He's also got another move too that he rarely uses in this battle. If we do see it, we're gonna give a shout out to that, but
well,
if we don't see it, yeah. Ground crush or ground slash. I don't know what it's really called. I assume one or the other.
It's ground crush.
Okay. There it is.
There it is. You should have let him do
it. Denied. Colonel. There's your Metal Gear reference. And, yeah. So, at this point, Repliforce has now made it into space with a space weapon as their base of operations. So it is up to us to infiltrate them. Now, I would say I lied. This is actually the shortest X level of the game, but I didn't, because this is actually still 2 portions. So, if you want to count it as 2 levels, you could, but in reality, it's a first area and a second area. Oh, wait, double. I thought I told you to stay at the base. Wait a second. Why are you called double? Oh.
Because he's a double agent.
Yes, sir. Oh, yes. This is one of those characters, by the way, that does get dubbed. So, yeah, like Zero mentioned, in the Japanese version of the game, there's a bit of RNG as to what those boss lines will be before the fight. What you're seeing me do is a little strat that involves intentional... Oh, God, I did not expect him to use that move. Yeah,
also,
thank goodness.
Double Cyclone, when you hit him with his weakness, makes him produce projectiles.
You want to...
We don't know why.
It's similar to Iris, though. There's a completely different boss battle if you play Zero, and that boss does a very similar thing when you attack her. So, yeah.
And you get the great meme cutscene. So the difference I just thought about, the cutscene with Double happens before X goes to the final weapon. Zero doesn't get a cutscene there. He gets the great meme cutscene of whenever this game, 1997, after his fight. Pretty also, much, this is the only stage in the game with branching paths, and for years we did the top route, and then someone actually did the bottom route and found out it was slightly faster.
Which is why it's my preferred route, anyhow.
I do bottom route now. I don't even think I could go back and do top route. Also, RN General is here.
Let's see if he does the line. My fate is sealed. I have no choice. I love that line. I love that line so much. Oh, that's beautiful. I'm so glad we got to hear it here.
Oh, cool. You just get to Nova Strike into his head now and go and shoot tiger stuff at him. Or beast. I will get out of X3 eventually.
To be fair, I think I always had a bigger impression of Neon Tiger more than I did Slash Beast anyhow, so shout out to the Guns N' Roses Tiger.
This pattern is favorable for Zero, not really for X. unless he's low enough health where you can just go behind his head and kill him before the cycle ends.
Yeah. That was a little messy, but hey, we made through it quite all right, so I can't be too sad. Alrighty, fellas, we are on the final stage. So now,
in a typical Mega Man fashion,
time it is.
We're gonna do a boss rush.
We're gonna start with Web Spider. There's gonna be a little bit of a trick similar to how Storm Owl has the shield break. What I'm gonna do though is I'm gonna use the Nova Strike after I damage him as he's coming up into the ceiling. apparently, when you hit Spider from the ceiling before he drops back down and use a Nova Strike on him, you can shred a lot of health. And if I do this just right, there's a funny little glitch that we can actually showcase from this too. So I'm gonna go for it, but it's potentially unlikely, because again, Web Spider, he do be a little hard to manage with his RNG. Alright, here we go. Serious time. No, that's not gonna do it. That's not going to do it either. Give me a moment.
There you go. You got half of it.
Yes! Well, okay. Unfortunately,
okay, you got all of
it. So, at least I got to show off the trick itself, but if I had done this just right, the possibility of him getting a extended health bar when he's actually dead is more likely than you think. Sometimes his health bar just goes way past the bar sprite itself, and it's the most glorious thing I have ever seen. So back to Dragoon. We neglected to mention that his iframes are some of the shortest within any of the bosses in X4. So it's why using the half charge strat in the first portion of the Mavericks in the 100% X route is very doable, because Dragoon he's just easy to hit.
That was a really good fight.
Very. And that was mainly me utilizing the any percent strat, which, yeah, in any percent, by the time you get to Dragoon as the 4th stage, which is, you know, right before Colonel, you'll already have that going straight up. So, yeah, I think that should be enough hits taken from him, so we're going to see if we can do this now. So, you heard Zero mention that we can do quite a bit of health shredding with Storm Owl. Well, that time is now. Maybe, anyway. We'll see if he behaves. I got a few charge shots primed just in case to ensure that something good happens. Okay, so I have enough Nova. Part of me didn't want to pause, but I just couldn't help it. Sometimes you're never too sure. Alright, so that's one aiming laser down. And then, that's not a good one. I'm gonna wait for the next. Nope. Okay, I'm gonna hit him with another aiming laser then, so that will at least guarantee we can kill him. Nice.
Yep. So, the reason that works is when he's in iframes like that with the TV static, he's in iframes. No doubt about it. But the Nova Strike works weird with iframes. And it just is like, oh, hey, he has iframes. Oh, wait. Nova Strike it just completely doesn't care about iframes at all. And it's basically frame-by-frame damage.
So back to Jet Stingray. My boss order is a little bit different than most people. It's because I try to go accordingly with what I'm most accustomed to. And this generally guarantees I can use Nova Strike again for certain fights. Because, like with the Giga Crush before it, Nova Strike recharges based on two things. One being the damage that X takes, and then new to Nova Strike, it also recovers with weapon energy, so that's why you're also seeing me pick up some weapon refills after some of the boss refights. Like that. And yeah, I can get a lot of Nova Strikes going pretty simply, and cool stuff. English is still hard, apparently. Right, and now we're going back into Frost Walrus. So I ended up not doing the fight the way I wanted to earlier in his actual stage. We're going to see if I can get it this time, though. And I will also be sure to explain what happens as we go along. Okay, there we go. Nice. Yeah, you're seeing me shove myself into the wall because it forces him to do a slide tackle into the wall that I'm facing. And the moment he bumps into said wall is the moment he's not doing it anymore. So it's a lot easier to hit him in that regard. And, yeah, normally I don't have him do his Frost Breath attack facing the other direction. But, hey, this time we did it a little differently. So a little nice treat for you all this time around. And back to Slash Beast we go. So, yeah, oh, there we go. We actually got to see the charged variant do those little projectiles up and down. I don't know what causes that, but it is a nice little extra effect that can happen with the weapon. Actually, Zero, could you potentially look into that for me?
What is it? Sorry.
So, the charged variant of Ground Hunter, it can fire these little extra waves that go up and down sometimes. I don't know what causes that.
Up and down on the D-pad.
Oh, okay.
I got you.
That explains a lot, actually. That's nice. That's pretty genius. Good on you, Capcom. Back to Split Mushroom we go. So, yeah, we're gonna see me do that fight again. Nothing too different. Okay, but now to see whether I have a Nova. I did. Good. So I'm just gonna now do the strat again. After he's done getting zapped, there is a little period where you can hit him before he starts moving, and yeah. Simple as that. So this takes us back to Cyber Peacock once more. That fight is just another rinse and repeat, and not too much else. So, folks, this is a great time to say, once more, please get in those donations, because we got a charity to be supporting, and we got some kids to feed. And, as I always say, no matter how big or small your donation is, I'm grateful for your contributions, because speedrunning and the events that so many of us put on for just so many causes around the world is one of the most fulfilling hobbies that I've ever gotten to take part in, and having done this for 3 years is just phenomenal. I've learned so many speedrun games over the course of that, and I'm always super eager to see what else I can do, and just have fun with going fast, just seeing what kind of tricks I can and can't do, and seeing how I can improve. I mean, who wouldn't? It's just one of the coolest things around, and we simply have it in us to do some great stuff with it all. So, thanks again to Retro Gaming Live TV for having me, not once but twice in the schedule. It's a good time, and good times will be had. So with the Mavericks all gone, wouldn't you know it, this plot was once again Sigma Incorporated.
Except this time it's Reaper Sigma.
Ugh. What is he not cosplaying these days?
Well, in X6 he cosplayed a homeless person.
Yikes, yeah. Reminding me of one of the easiest boss fights in the franchise. Oof. Which is a shame, because X6's final boss theme is superb. Just a wonderful love letter to X1 and 2. Are you ready for round 2? So, once we destroy the cloak, Sigma will be mainly vulnerable. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure the only thing that... Ah, oh, come on, not that move. Oh well. I'm pretty sure the only thing that can hit cloaked Sigma is the Rising Fire. So, correct. Make sure you're doing as much damage to him as possible. Because, yeah, 2 cycling is all that good jazz, but... yeah, not too much else to say about this fight, except don't let his scythe go into the floor like I did. Letting it hit the walls... yeah.
Boomerang
no, you
forever.
You can explain that, yeah.
Yeah, so if you hit the floor, you get boomeranged for like a good 20 seconds, and it takes forever, and you can't really hit him because you're being attacked. If he hits the wall, you get eye lasers. You can just either stand in front of him or stand behind him and just pelt him. Also, now it's time for real RNG of the game.
So we got Gunner Sigma and Ugly Head Sigma. And yes, I will not refer to him as anything else. It's really Earth Sigma, though, so, you know. Sky, ground, whatever the heck. I don't know what they're trying to go for here, but it's a really interesting design in that he's completely merged into the weapon. Like, that's pretty metal. But hey,
old school zero blade edge strats. I used to do this when I ran X 100%.
But then I'll show you what it's like to, briefly show you what it's like to do the 100% strat. One of the benefits of having the hover is you can just bump into him constantly.
Yeah, you want to get as much damage as you can, and then bump into him, and then hover again. And it's rough, but once you learn it, it's pretty easy, from what I understand.
Indeed. Alright, so that's one phase down, one more to go. And booyah! Oh, just before he disappeared, that was perfect. And we did not get the end. So time will be once I lose control of X, once I reach the next room's cutscene trigger. So let's enter the final corridor. And that's time.
GG.
GG's indeed. And that is a PB as well.
Nice.
Heck yeah. Oh, that felt pretty good of a comeback. So, one of the reasons that I submitted this game was because I just figured, as someone who has ran Mega Man Extreme 2, which was my first ever speed game, and one of the closest Mega Man X games to my heart, I also really wanted to take off with some mainline Mega Man stuff, and the PS1 era really was kind of a highlight for me, because while I never really owned a PlayStation classic model in my entire life, like just any of the old PlayStations, I was more of a Nintendo kid growing up, these games really did look cool. And having played the Mega Man Anniversary Collection, having seen it at a Christmas tree lighting party from a family friend all those years ago, that's what introduced me to classic Mega Man. And then, soon after, Mega Man X. And Mega Man 8 was such a really cool game for me. I still love it to this day. It's a fun time, and considering it's kind of like a spiritual brother to X4, it's just kind of meshed well for me, you know? But if you yourself would like to give this speedrun a shot, join the Mega Man X speedrunning community Discord, where you can find a link to it in the Mega Man RTA leaderboards, and you can go to the About page where you can find the other communities as well. There's a hub where you can just find all the servers for all the Mega Man speedrun stuff. And just shout out to all the Mega Man runners in general. We are a major collective community of folks that are just pretty dang cool people, if I do say so myself. And yeah, thank you to Capcom for giving us this game. And I will say this much. Speedrunning on the Legacy Collection, X Collection, and the original hardware, all of them are different stuff in terms of leaderboards because we do use RTA. But I would highly recommend that if anybody's interested in running X5 and X6, Legacy Collection is fair game because those use IGT, so yeah. And X7. So that as well.
X8 as well.
Oh no, unfortunately X8 is split between Legacy Collection and original.
Oh, of course it is.
Hey, that's not a bad thing in my book, because I'm pretty sure one of the tricks that was only made possible in the original hardware is not possible in the Legacy Collection, so...
Correct. Flying is not possible in XLC.
All for the better. So, Zero, where can these wonderful people find you?
As I do in every marathon. Right there. I'm that on everything.
Indeed. And, well, my name is TempestMask1000 here on Twitch, YouTube. I got a Twitter at It's Tempest Steve, and a Blue Sky at Tempest Mask, where any updates for streaming plans or other events you can see me post there. I'm not a static streamer. I do not have a static schedule. I'm pretty fluent in when I do it because IRL things and IRL duties, but yeah. Nah, you can see me do games like Mega Man, Gungrave, indies, retros, moderns, all sorts of stuff. It's pretty fair game for me. And this won't be the last time you see me. Tomorrow at approximately 12:14-ish Eastern Standard Time, I will be running Curse Crackers, and it's going to be a great time. So please, I implore you to catch me then. But for now, thanks to RGLtv for having X4. Thanks again for being the first event I ran this game for. And until next we meet, my friends, ciao, Michi.
See ya.
Hang on, April.